Hey guys, how's it going? This is Khan TDK, Mr. So Real, and in today's agent info video, we are going to be addressing the FAMAS. In this video, we are going to be talking about the attachments that I would recommend you use for the FAMAS to get the maximum amount of efficiency out of the weapon. Now, this is a very different weapon from the M4, which I covered previously. And in that video that I covered, Yozer asked me to basically cover this weapon. In his comment, he said, "I like your stuff and you should have also made another part for Alpha Bridge, M4, and FAMAS." Now, I will be addressing the Alpha Bridge, FAMAS, M4 combo, but not in this video. I need to kind of build up so that you guys know where we're going when we start talking about Alpha Bridge and the FAMAS by first addressing the weapon itself. A lot of people are very hyped for the FAMAS, and I think we really need to talk about that, talk about the weapon, talk about everything we need to know about the weapon to be good at it, just in case you run out of bullets with that M4 and you actually have to use that FAMAS in a pinch. So why don't we get started and get to talking about which attachments I think are best for the FAMAS and which ones will help you be a better agent in this agent info video. Let's go. Alright guys, now we are here and it's time to talk about which attachments I believe are beneficial for you to use as a player with your FAMAS. Now, I know a lot of people using the Alpha Bridge are not necessarily using the weapon itself, but just in case you get into that pinch where you actually do need to use it, let's talk about the weapon and which mods you may want to have on it in case you want to use it for Alpha Bridge. Now, naked, the weapon with no attachments on it, looking at this character, of course, your character will be different. I'm sure that your firearms or your toughness or skill power may vary. We're just using this as an example, so let's just go through it. Now, this FAMAS that I have has 24% enemy armor damage. It has a base damage of 13.4k with this character. The RPM of the gun is 900 and it comes with a magazine of 30. The talents that are on this weapon, I have Fierce, which gives me critical hit chances increased by 5% when using this weapon. We have Deadly, critical hit damage is increased by 15%, and Uncomplicated. Damage is increased by 15% when accuracy and stability mods are not on the weapon. So remember that accuracy and stability mods, if they are on the weapon for your attachments, will reduce this bonus. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, let's talk about which mods I think are pretty good for someone using a FAMAS that has Uncomplicated on it. All right, now looking at the FAMAS, we get a bump of about 127,573 damage. Now, looking at which attachments we're running, first off, we're using the Godroll Omega Rifle Suppressor as our muzzle. I touted this as being one of the best, if not the best muzzles that you could buy from the Dark Zone last week. I hope you guys picked that up. I recommended it in my Good or Garbage series, so if you missed it, be sure to check it out. I do this every week and talk about which weapons, attachments, mods, gear, all that stuff you should probably pick up that is being sold at the vendors. Now, the Omega Rifle Suppressor has 18.5% headshot damage. It comes with 4% critical hit damage and 3% critical hit chance. Now, if you're not a fan of getting the headshot damage and your playstyle is a little bit different, you may want to switch that up for maybe critical hit as your main instead of headshot. I don't know if I have any on this character. Let's take a quick look. Here we go. We have one here. This one is 18% critical hit damage plus 5.5 critical hit chance, but this comes with optimal range. And I don't have another one that has critical hit chance. If you had one that maybe had critical hit chance instead of optimal range, that could be a better bet for you, depending on your playstyle. But this one with headshot damage as the main was the better option for me and this character. Now moving on to the grip, we have a 17% critical hit damage grip with 5% reload speed and 2% accuracy. Now, before you start freaking out and saying, hey Khan, I thought we couldn't have any accuracy or any stability mods on the weapon, I will adjust that and I will say that you can get away with a slight bit of accuracy without being penalized. I'll talk about that in a second. Now the magazine that I have, this one, of course there are better magazines. This is just one that I have on the FAMAS. This is 103.5 magazine size with 2.5 critical hit chance and 4% critical hit damage. I know a lot of people who run Alpha Bridge are not really putting most of their best magazines or mods on their weapons. They're just trying to make sure that they have it for the bonus. So, you know, it is what it is. But if you're actually using the weapon, this isn't a bad one to have. Critical hit chance and damage is how this weapon is stacked. Now for the sight. I know this can be very difficult. I have tons of stability sights, but this one actually has 17% critical hit damage as the main, 3% critical hit chance, and then 4.5 optimal range for this optical sight. So this is a C79 scope. This is a 3.4 times scope. And none of these, except for that small underbarrel grip for the 2% accuracy, have any accuracy or stability on them. Now, getting back to my point about having 2% accuracy. If you go over to your character, now where you can check to see if that 15% damage actually kicks in, you scroll down to weapons and look at all weapon damage bonus. This 15% for this character is that damage bonus. It's coming from the uncomplicated talent. If we change this, we can go down to something like this vertical grip, which has more range. Critical hit damage is at 4 and reload speed is higher. This has nothing to do with accuracy at all. And if we look at the DPS, it goes down a bit. Range goes up quite a bit. If I equip this, go back over to my character selection, and we go over to the all weapon damage bonus, it's still at 15%. So it does not change at all. But if you decide that maybe you want a little more stability or something like that on your weapon and you want to change something out, then we could maybe go for, let's find something with some stability. All right, let's just grab this one because it's easy. Sorry, ACR. This one has 13% stability and it has optimal range plus 4% critical hit damage. Now we have a lot more stability, but if we go over to our stats here, I think I passed it. Oh, yeah, I did. All weapon damage bonus goes down to 12.5%. So that's all because of the stability bump that we got from this grip. And this grip has 13% stability. So if you don't want to go with stability, but you want a little bit more stability and you want the most amount of DPS, this vertical grip will make sure that you get the bonus for uncomplicated. But if you have something with 2% accuracy, you can still slide more DPS on your weapon because critical hit damage is worth a lot more than optimal range in most cases. And there you go. It won't penalize you at all for having a slight bit of accuracy. All right, guys, now that is pretty much about it. When you talk about the FAMAS and you talk about your attachments, basically I would recommend that you go for more critical hit chance and critical hit damage as opposed to headshot damage like with the M4. This seems like a pretty pop out and shoot kind of weapon. I will be talking about that in a further agent info video. But for this video, I just wanted to talk about the attachments. Leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you're running on your FAMAS in terms of the attachments, and let me know what talents you have on your weapon. I know some people who are not running uncomplicated because it's just a hard weapon to get their hands around. It just jumps around a lot, but I will be talking about that in a future video related to the recoil pattern and controlling your weapon. That'll be another agent info video. It'll be coming very soon. I'm going to start working on that soon as well. But for this type of weapon, if you are running uncomplicated, try to stack more into the critical hit chance and critical hit damage if you can. I know that the base numbers on this weapon are not that great, but the enemy armor damage is nice. And if you were wondering about some other options, maybe because you're not running uncomplicated, I've got you covered. I've got another FAMAS right here that has 21% enemy armor damage. It has more base damage by a little bit. And this one is decked out with brutal, predatory, and destructive. So I rolled off uncomplicated just because predatory was really good for giving me my health back. Brutal, of course, is good for headshots, and destructive is good for eating up armor. This is another variant that you can use. And if you compare the two, just because of the base damage, there's a very big jump in base damage, but there is a big jump in the enemy armor damage as well. The FAMAS without uncomplicated does a pretty good job, and I will compare the two of those in a recoil battle to let you know if it's even worth it to keep uncomplicated, because you may want to take it off and put more stability on the FAMAS to use it and get a different talent that may be more beneficial for you and your playstyle. If you really want to know about this other version with no uncomplicated on it, I'll take a quick look. I really wasn't planning on doing this, but just for you guys out there who are curious, using basically the same suppressor. I didn't buy another one. I bought like 5 of the God roll suppressors. I didn't have it on this one, but you can put that suppressor on and get more headshot damage. This is 18 with 3% critical chance, 4% critical damage. On the undergrip, I'm using accuracy, reload speed, and optimal range, but honestly, I could take that and put that on here because stability doesn't really matter. This was on my ACR, but if I wanted to use it for the FAMAS, I could do that. With a bit more stability, you can bump the fire rate even more if you like. This one has 112 magazine size, 3% critical hit chance, and 5.1 rate of fire. And the scope that I'm using has a 13.5 stability, 4.5 optimal range, and 5% critical hit damage. Now, these are 2 different options in terms of what you could run. It could vary. You could use something that maybe had a little bit more critical hit chance for the scope, but that's up to you. I prefer stability, but we'll talk about having stability versus not having stability, having uncomplicated and not having uncomplicated in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this agent info video series. If you do, remember to hit that like button. It does help a lot. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. Are there any other weapons that you'd like to see me cover and talk about? Leave that in the comment section below as well. As always, I am Khan, TDK, Mr. So Real. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.